Ever walked past a tobacco shop
Yeah.
and wondered what it really takes to run the place? I mean, what does the manager actually do all day?
Right.
Well, today's deep dive throws open those doors.
Yeah.
We're diving into the surprisingly intricate role of a tobacco shop manager.
Sounds interesting.
I've got some great sources,
Okay.
excerpts from a career guide,
Uh-huh.
some intel on this platform called RoleCatcher,
Right.
even some FAQs.
Cool.
Should be a fascinating peek behind the curtain.
Yeah. What we're gonna uncover is how this very traditional role reflects broader trends in retail.
Okay.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
So customer service meets niche expertise,
Right.
and all while navigating a ton of changing regulations and, of course, tech advancements.
So it's more than just, like I was saying, just standing behind the counter.
Absolutely.
This career guide we've got really breaks down the job description.
Yeah.
And it's way more involved than you might think.
Yeah.
You'd think it's all cigarettes and cash registers,
Right.
but it's not.
It's way more than that.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes the blend of skills that are needed for this job.
Okay.
Customer service is obviously important,
Right. I get
but there's also staff management,
Uh-huh.
inventory control,
Wow.
even marketing.
Really?
The guide even positions this job as a path to potentially owning your own business one day.
Huh. Interesting.
Not just like a clock in and clock out kind of job.
And here's where I thought it got really interesting.
Okay.
The guide talks about how important it is to stay current on all the new tobacco trends.
Oh, wow.
Like heated tobacco products are huge right now.
I can imagine.
So imagine needing to explain to a customer the difference between those and traditional cigarettes.
Right.
You'd basically be their tobacco guy.
Exactly. You become this kind of like a specialist in a way.
Right.
It's specialized retail at its core.
Uh-huh.
You're not just selling a pack of cigarettes, you're engaging with enthusiasts.
Right.
You're navigating these really complex regulations and, of course, managing inventory in a market that's constantly evolving.
And speaking of challenges,
Okay.
the pros and cons section of this career guide
Oh,
was eye-opening.
Really?
Long hours.
Yeah.
High stress.
All right.
And that ever-present instability of changing tobacco laws.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely not a job for the faint of heart.
No, it's true. You're really at the whim of legislation.
Yeah.
And you have to be adaptable and informed.
Yep.
This just underscores the reality of working in a field that's so susceptible to external forces.
Right.
Like, imagine trying to explain a brand new vaping regulation to a customer while you're also trying to upsell them on a new lighter.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a balancing act.
And then we're going to throw technology into the mix here.
Okay.
This platform called RoleCatcher keeps popping up.
RoleCatcher.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So from what I'm gathering, it analyzes job specs and then helps tailor your resume to what the hiring algorithms are looking for. Even for a niche job like this.
So even for tobacco shop managers.
Yeah, so it's not just like your
Oh.
typical retail positions.
It really speaks to how automated the hiring process has become,
It does.
even for roles that we might not typically think of. Like,
Yeah.
it really begs the question.
What's that?
If tobacco shop managers are now up against algorithms,
Right.
does something like RoleCatcher actually level the playing field, or does it create new hurdles?
It's a really good question.
Because in a way, it's almost like you need to outsmart robots
I know.
just to even get an interview these days.
But wouldn't you want to know, like if you were applying for this job,
Right.
wouldn't you want to know what skills the AI is prioritizing?
Absolutely. I think it would be invaluable information.
Yeah. And it seems like RoleCatcher provides that insider knowledge.
Right. It's almost like having a secret weapon.
Kind of.
In a way. It's
Yeah.
a really fascinating dilemma, actually.
It is.
And it reflects this broader conversation that we're having as a society about technology's role in the job market.
For sure.
Like, where does it fit in?
Right.
Where do we fit in?
Exactly.
All of that.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
this career guide actually outlines a really interesting potential career path
Okay.
for tobacco shop managers. And it's surprisingly diverse.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's room for growth in this field.
Yeah, you don't have to be a tobacco shop manager forever if you don't want to be.
Gotcha.
It outlines 3 basic stages.
Okay.
You start as an assistant, work your way up to manager,
Right.
and then you can branch out.
So, like, what are the branching out options?
So you could potentially open your own shop
Okay.
or even move into a more corporate role,
Oh, wow. So there's like a whole corporate side to this.
apparently.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah,
So you could go from like stocking shelves
right.
to like boardrooms.
Maybe.
And then it's a wide.
Imagine starting as a cashier and ending up as a regional manager,
Wow.
overseeing multiple tobacco shops.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is.
It really highlights the potential for growth within this field.
It does.
And the guide emphasizes a few things that I think are important for any career path.
Like what?
Well, continuous learning is huge.
Makes sense.
Staying updated on all those industry trends,
Right.
even networking,
Okay.
all crucial for advancement.
So it's not just a job, it's a career.
Exactly. You're not just stuck behind that counter.
Right.
It can be a real stepping stone to bigger and better things.
And throughout it all,
Yeah.
you've got to deal with customers,
Of course.
which actually this FAQ section dives into
Okay.
the nitty-gritty of customer service.
Cool.
And it sounds like it's a whole other ballgame in this role.
Interesting. So it's not just like your typical retail
No.
customer service
Yeah.
where you're just like ringing people up and saying, have a nice day.
Right, exactly.
It's got to be more than that.
It is.
Okay. Tell me more.
Well, the FAQ stresses that customer service is absolutely paramount. You're a tobacco shop manager.
Okay.
It goes way beyond just ringing up sales.
Gotcha.
It's about creating a welcoming environment for every customer, being super knowledgeable about all those different products.
So many different brands and blends and everything.
Exactly. And then also knowing how to handle issues effectively.
Because I'm sure there are some difficult customer interactions
Oh, I'm sure.
in that line of work.
Right. Imagine having to explain, like, the nuances of different cigar brands or navigate a conversation about the potential health risks associated with smoking.
Yeah, those are not easy conversations.
No, that requires some serious finesse.
For sure. It showcases how customer service in this particular role often transcends simple pleasantries.
Right.
Like you were saying, you can't just be like, have a nice day.
Right.
It can actually demand deep product knowledge, a nuanced understanding of potentially sensitive topics.
For sure.
And the ability to communicate clearly and respectfully, even in challenging situations.
Exactly. And that's not even getting into the legalities of it all.
Oh, right. Age verification,
Yeah.
all of that.
We'll get into that and more right after this quick break. And on top of all that, like you were saying, you've got to be totally on top of the legal stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Age verification,
Oh, yeah.
local regulations.
Yes.
Right.
Taxes, the whole 9 yards.
The legal and regulatory landscape surrounding tobacco is constantly changing.
It feels like it's always something new
It really is.
with this industry.
A tobacco shop manager needs to not only be aware of all the current laws, but also stay informed about any changes or updates to those laws.
Which I'm sure happens pretty often.
All the time.
Yeah.
For instance, did you know that some cities have implemented what they're calling flavor bans?
Flavor bans.
Yeah. Basically restricting the sale of any flavored tobacco products.
Wow.
So that kind of legislation directly impacts a shop's inventory and, of course, their customer base.
Makes sense. So you've really got to stay on top of it.
You have to be in the know.
It's like a crash course in compliance every single day.
Pretty much.
And then let's not forget about inventory management. Oh, yeah, that's a whole other beast.
Keeping track of all those different brands and blends and products.
It's a lot.
It's not like you can just order a pallet of cigarettes and call it a day, right?
No, not at all. Inventory management in this field requires a deep understanding of your customers and what their preferences are.
So you really need to know, like, what's popular, what's selling.
And you're dealing with such a wide range of products.
Yeah, it's not just cigarettes anymore.
Not even close. Each product has its own shelf life,
Right.
storage requirements, and then just general popularity among all these different types of customers.
Right. You've got people who smoke cigarettes, and then you've got people who vape. And
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance between supply and demand. You might need to stock, high-end cigars for one type of customer.
Right.
And then disposable vapes for another.
Wow, what a mix.
Right. And then on top of that, you got to make sure you're not overstocking on products with a limited shelf life.
That makes sense.
Because you don't want to end up with a bunch of expired merchandise.
Exactly.
So it's a real balancing act.
It is, and I imagine profit margins can be pretty tight in this industry.
Yeah, especially with the rise of vaping and all these alternative products.
Right, because people are moving away from traditional cigarettes.
Exactly, and that's changing the whole game.
So you need to be really savvy with your pricing and your promotions and all of that.
Absolutely. A successful tobacco shop manager needs to be able to analyze their sales data. Understand all the latest market trends, and then adjust their strategies accordingly.
So you always have to be like one step ahead.
Exactly. You've got to stay ahead of the curve to stay in business.
Wow.
They might offer loyalty programs or discounts on bulk purchases.
Okay.
Or even host like tasting events.
Really?
Yeah. to attract new customers and build brand loyalty.
That's a cool idea.
It's all about being creative and finding ways to stand out from the competition.
So we've got customer service, we've got legal compliance, we've got inventory management.
Right.
It's like running a small business.
It really is.
Within this larger industry.
Exactly.
No wonder this career guide puts so much emphasis on leadership skills.
It makes sense.
Because you need those to be successful.
Absolutely. Leadership is paramount in this role.
It's not just managing a cash register.
It's managing a team, often in a high-pressure environment with really unique challenges.
And probably some difficult employees, too.
Potentially the ability to motivate your staff, delegate effectively, and maintain a positive and productive work environment is absolutely crucial for success as a tobacco shop manager.
So it's not just about knowing the products, it's about managing people, too.
Exactly. Imagine having to address a situation where an employee mistakenly sells tobacco to a minor.
Oh, gosh.
You need to be able to handle that kind of crisis with both firmness and compassion.
Right, because it's a serious situation.
It is. There's a lot at stake.
It's making me realize that those help-wanted signs you see outside tobacco shops are probably masking a much more complex
absolutely.
and demanding job.
Then we realize people don't often think about what goes on behind the scenes.
Exactly.
But there's a whole world back there.
Right.
And it's often the case with roles that we might not think twice about.
It's true. We just kind of take them for granted.
Right, like we walk past these places every day and we don't really stop to consider what it takes to run them.
Exactly. We just assume it's simple.
But it's not. It gets complex. There's a lot of expertise involved, a lot of dedication, and honestly, even passion.
Really?
Yeah, behind these seemingly ordinary jobs.
That's a good point.
And that brings us back to the human element within all of these industries.
The human element.
Yeah, the personal interactions, the sense of community that can exist in a place you might not expect.
Right. You might not think of a tobacco shop as a place with a lot of community.
But they can be. Yeah.
Like that old saying, don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
But in this case, it's more like, don't judge a job by its storefront.
Exactly.
Right.
Every industry, every role has its own hidden depths and complexities.
Totally.
And oftentimes, it's the people within those roles that really bring those complexities to life,
That's a good point. It makes you think about the kind of people who are drawn to this line of work.
Yeah.
They must have a real knack for it.
Absolutely.
It's not just about the product itself.
Right.
It's about understanding the culture that surrounds it. The regulations, all the nuances. And then also building relationships with customers who really rely on them.
It's about being a part of a community.
Yeah. And that's not something you necessarily expect from a tobacco shop.
You wouldn't, but it's there.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
There's often a really strong sense of community within these kind of niche industries.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And it extends to the retailer and customer relationship.
Right, like they have their regulars?
Exactly. Think about it. For some people, the tobacco shop manager might be the person they rely on for their daily newspaper.
Oh, that's true.
Their favorite cigar brand, or even just a friendly chat.
Someone to talk to.
Exactly. It becomes like a social hub.
Yeah, like a little meeting place.
Right. A place for people with shared interests to connect.
And in a world that's becoming increasingly digital, I feel like that human connection is more important than ever.
Absolutely, that sense of belonging,
Yeah, exactly.
They're not just a face in the crowd.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to a side of retail that I honestly never really considered before.
That's the beauty of these conversations, right?
It is.
They challenge our assumptions.
They do.
They broaden our perspectives.
Yeah, for sure.
And they remind us that there's always more to learn. Even about the things that seem the most ordinary.
Like tobacco shops.
Exactly.
Well said.
Yeah.
So next time we walk by a tobacco shop, we might just have a newfound appreciation.
I hope so.
For the person running the show.
For sure.
And who knows, maybe even a little curiosity about the ins and outs of their world.
You never know, you might even be inspired to apply for a job.
Or not. But at least we'll know what we're talking about now.
Exactly.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
It was a good one.
It was. Join us next time for another fascinating look at a job you might not know as well as you think you do.